Now, welcome to the premium version of a video you may well have seen a few weeks ago on the YouTube channel, where we met with Gary and his son-in-law Jack, who both had come down to Stag Classics in Alton in Hampshire to pick up Gary's Triumph Stag that had been in with Paul for a few weeks, basically having a whole new engine put into it. And I know that you know why he did that, and no doubt we'll explain a little bit more in detail later on. So this is the premium version of that film, where we got to have a far more in-depth look at the car, understand why he'd named it the name he'd named, and stay on for the reveal of that later on. Gary will talk you through that, and really just to enjoy such a glorious sunny day back in July and be invited to go out and about in a spin with the car. And Gary drove and took us out and about and to experience what the car was like at first hand. I think, as you can see here, it is an absolute stunner of a car, very much up together, and Gary will shortly talk us through all the details, what he had done to it, how it performs, and what it actually means to him, which I think actually is something we perhaps don't really appreciate as much as we need to, what these cars actually mean to people, their families and their relatives, and how they feel when they're driving one of these iconic 1970s cars. As you can see here, he's got plenty of lights on the front of the car, and he's upgraded quite a bit to it throughout. It really is a beautiful car and well up together, and I know he's planning to do some longer trips, possibly abroad later next year, thus the reason for getting it all up together. He's a proud owner of the Stag Owners Club, as well as an Arry The Stag badge of honour owner and member, and I'll hand over to him to pick up the reins. Alright, so Gary's very kindly decided to take us for a spin in, this is called Patricia, yeah?
That's right, yeah.
We'll have to find out why it's called Patricia in just a minute.
Yeah, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'll let you pull out rather than risk damaging anything. If you want to scrape any doors, that would not be a good career move. Just listen to that V8 engine. It's just amazing, isn't it? Hearing it. Superb. Yeah. That's it. Lovely, perfect day to be driving a Stag, that's for sure. And yeah, what a car. So let's go and jump in and see how this goes. That's it. I'm in. Thanks, Gary.
Okay, no problem.
Don't think I've got dirty feet, I think I'm okay. Right, so into gear, and here we go. So Gary's been watching the channel for a little while now.
Yeah, I've been watching it since I got the Stag, which was only a year ago.
Yeah, okay. And what do you think of it?
The channel? Or
Well,
the
the Stag, yeah.
The Stag I love.
Yeah.
I've just had a little bit of bad luck with the money I've ended up having to spend on it.
Yeah.
I bought it from a garage where, I've since found out he's a little bit unscrupulous.
Yeah.
So I've had some work done. It was down with Faversham Classics a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And they replaced all of the shocks, springs and bushes.
Yeah.
On all four corners.
Yeah.
And it was them that first brought the engine issues to my attention.
Right.
I knew there was something not right because the oil pressure was so low.
Okay.
It's once it was warm, it never really got above 15 to 20.
Yeah.
On whilst driving.
Right.
And at idle, it was 0.
Oh dear. That's no good.
The oil light wasn't coming on.
No.
And but Faversham couldn't do anything because they were going to rebuild my engine.
Yeah.
They couldn't do anything until the autumn. So a colleague of mine, a guy called Lawrence, he works with Tony White.
Yeah.
Who you might know of. They've got that Aladdin's Cave.
Yes, indeed.
Of a barn up near Rickmansworth.
That's right.
Well, I was picking some bits up off of him the day after I'd been to Faversham, and I told him about it, and he said, well, give Paul a call at Stag Classics, because he used to work with him.
Yeah.
So I gave Paul a call. As a result of that, I came down a couple of days later. He took a look at it, confirmed that the engine was indeed buggered, and option of just putting a rebuilt engine in it.
Yeah.
And he happened to have one that was virtually finished, and it was a bit. Not only was it faster, it was a bit cheaper that way, because doing it on an exchange basis.
Yeah.
I saved some money.
Yeah, that's good.
So I was able to get it done nice and quickly as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds gorgeous, doesn't it?
It does sound
really,
good,
really nice. Yeah. So you're down here to pick it up and take it home?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And your son's behind you on the way back?
Yeah, that's my son-in-law.
Yeah, son-in-law. Yeah. Fantastic. So what's the best bit about owning a Stag, would you say?
The sound, like everyone says, it's boring, isn't it? But everyone says the same thing. The sound, everything about. I've always loved them since I was a lad that had just passed my test.
Yeah.
And like most of my mates, we just drove around in old sheds.
That's right.
We just thought that's all we could afford.
Yeah, of course it was.
I had a Mark 1 Escort, which obviously is worth a bit of money now if you had a decent one.
Yeah.
And but one of our friends, his parents were very wealthy.
Yeah.
And they bought him, when he passed his driving test, they bought him a Triumph Stag.
Right.
Just quickly, if you can let me know when I leave the turn.
So where that car's just gone down. That's it.
And they bought him a Stag, and of course we were all just green with envy. And you had to be pretty wealthy to be driving it.
They were top of the range, weren't they?
Yeah, of course. And they had things that a lot of other cars, most other cars didn't have.
Yeah.
Like power steering and electric windows and things that are just taken for granted on every car now.
I know.
And I always loved them. I could never afford one. And my mum also loved Stags. And her and my stepfather ran pubs for quite a number of years.
Yeah.
And whilst my mum was doing all the grafting, running the pub, my stepdad was generally messing around in the garage, rebuilding and restoring, normally sports cars.
Okay.
He did a number of Sunbeam Alpines.
Yeah, nice.
A Tiger.
Yeah.
He did a few MGs. He did a Vitesse. And my mum drove a Dolomite Sprint at the time, which
very nice
indeed. Yeah, lovely
good cars. Yeah.
But she desperately wanted a Stag, and he was always promising her that he'd get her a Stag.
Yeah.
And he didn't. She didn't get one.
No.
And she passed away 4 years ago.
Sorry.
And last year, after a lot of, because there was care home fees and things like that to sort out, I came into a little bit of money. Not a fortune, but a bit. And we gave some to our kids, and to try and help them out. And I thought to myself, right, I'm going to use some of it to buy a Stag.
Yeah.
And I was only really able to get that Stag because of my mum.
Yeah.
And the money that I got from the sale of the bungalow.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why you might have spotted it's got Patricia
on the back.
Her name was Pat.
Yeah.
But Pat didn't seem quite right. And at the end of the day, Patricia was her proper name.
Yeah.
So that's why I call her Patricia. I'm not the sort of person that generally names cars, but And the other thing was that she was desperate to see our daughter get married, and never did. And she got married last September, and I drove her to church in Patricia.
Oh, brilliant! That's really good.
And it was lovely. It was almost like my mum was with us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I've got quite an emotional attachment to the car.
Yeah.
And I had a 4-speed box put in by Clive Tate earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Which, as you know, are pretty. It's an expensive upgrade, but it absolutely transformed it.
Yeah.
And I'd spent quite a lot of other money on it's got a new interior, upgraded leather interior. And I just got an emotional attachment to it. So once I found out that it needed a new lump, it wasn't just a simple case of thinking, well, I'll change it or sell it. Because I'd put money into it, and B, I'd become already, even though I've only had it a year, I've become really attached to it.
They grow on you, don't they? They really do. They really do.
So
that's amazing.
So that's a little bit of potted history on me and the Stag.
Right, that's fantastic, Gary. That's really good. And thanks for the drive. It's been awesome just to hear it and experience the countryside around this area. It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what a lovely story. And I think, from our point of view, that's been a pleasant surprise on the channel, just how many people around the world have stags that mean a lot to them in all sorts of different ways. Cars being handed down to sons and daughters and grandchildren, perhaps in loving memory of people who've gone before, and I've enjoyed them before. People have grown up around them, and now they're driving. It's just been lovely to see, and that's what sharing.
Yeah, there's a lot of nostalgia. And Paul here at Stag Classics said to me, we was chatting about that last week, and he said the amount of his customers that have got some sort of link like
connection.
Connection.
Just
and
amazing.
I mean, this next ultimate stag that he's working on, that's costing the fortune that he told me about. Well, you don't, if you're wealthy enough to have a car restored to that standard, it's got to be because you just love stags.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
Because otherwise, perhaps you'd buy a supercar or whatever.
You might do, but it's just a gorgeous car, isn't it? It really is.
And it's just everything about. I mean, they look beautiful, they sound beautiful. They're gorgeous to drive. They keep up in modern day traffic. No
they
problems
do,
at all.
And as you say, all mod cons as well. It's really good.
And I want to take her over to France and Spain next year.
Okay, so you need it reliable.
So I want to make sure I'm not stressing.
What a great way to enjoy it with a roof down and the sun shining. Happy days.
Yeah.
All right, Gary, well, thanks for your time. You've been Arry The Stag, so
cheers.
Really appreciate all your feedback, and we'll see you on the channel very soon.
Thanks
Cheers
very
for
much.
now.
Cheers.
So there you go. What a wonderful story, and thanks to Gary for the drive around and the insight into why he loves his Triumph Stag so much. And I'm sure many of us out there, both on the premium channel and elsewhere, will recognise those emotions that often go along with these cars. I've been, as I said in the film, quite amazed just how many people have historic familiar or friend connections, and these cars get passed down generation to generation over the years, and it's really great to see that acknowledgement for Patricia and what, as we said in the title, for the love of Patricia, this car really means to him. Now, as ever on the Arry The Stag Premium channel, we're always interested in your stories, so if you have a Triumph Stag or other classic car that you want to share your background and experience and provenance with us, then we're more than happy to have a chat to you, interview you, whatever you think is appropriate, photographs, videos, whatever. So please do get in touch, and let's see if we can tell your Triumph Stag story on Arry The Stag.